Good day, and welcome to another rounding tale from Ancient Irish Tales. Today's tale is The Tale of MacDuff's Pig. The story of MacDuff's Pig. The story of MacDuff's Pig is remarkably picturesque narrative. The action is swift, the dialogue spirited, and the climactic arrangement of the episodes highly effective. The plot is based on the ancient Celtic practice of assigning the choicest portion of feasts to the guest who could most successfully establish his superiority over his fellows. It is in the interest to note that the author, writing as early as ninth or 8th, 10th century, thought that the enmity between Ulster and Cornbreck, as extended back into remote antiquity. Incidentally, the story of MacDonald's Pig is one of the few sagas of the Ulster Cycle in which Cu Chulainn does not appear. The scene, it will be noted, is laid in Leinster. There was a famous landholder in Leinster, MacDotho, son of the two mutes, was his binding. He had a hound that would run all over Leinster in one day. The hound's name was Albi. Whence the plain of Albi is called. And from him was said, Merosa was MacDowell's name, who had the pig no falsehood. And Albi, this famous, cunning, splendid hound, from whom the renowned plain of Albi. Now, Ireland was full of fame and renown of that hound. Then to MacDonald came messengers from Mav and Ella and Concrick, asking him for his hound. But at the same time came messengers from Ulster and Conchobar to ask for the same hound. Welcome was made to them, and they were taken to MacDougall's stronghold, which was one of the 5 chief hostels in Ireland at the time, and there used to be boiling water in it always. There was a hostel of Daldrugga among men of Cúnal and Leinster, and the hostel of Formic besides Lusick, and the hostel of Dororo in Belfin, and the hostel of Datho in Westmans. Remember that Durgas hostel had been obliterated. 7 doors there were in each hostel, 7 roads through it, and 7 fireplaces therein. 7 cauldrons and 7 fireplaces, an ox and a salted pig would go in each of them of the cauldrons. And the man that came along the road would thrust his flesh fork into a cauldron, and whatever he brought up was the first thrust that he would eat. And if nothing was brought up with the first thrust, there was nothing for him. The messengers were taken to MacDonald, who was in bed, to be asked their pleasure before their ration was brought to them. And said their messengers, "We've come to ask for the hound," said the messengers of Conqueror, "from Ali, from Mav, and in exchange for that there shall be given 60 milch cows at once, and the chariot with the 2 horses that are the best in Conqueror, and as much at the end of the year besides all that." "We have come to ask too," said the messengers of Ulster and Concobar. "And Concobar is no worse friend than Ali and Mav, and the same amount shall be given from the north, and to be added to, and there being good friendship is not continually." MacDonald fell into great silence. And it was 3 days and nights without sleeping, nor did he eat for the greatness of his trouble. But he was always moving about from one side and another. And it was then his wife addressed him and said, "Long is the fast that thou art keeping. There's plenty of food by thee, thou dost not eat it." And then she said, "Sleeplessness is brought to MacDonald in his house. There is something on which he deliberated, though he speaks to none. He turns away from me to the wall. The hero of fierce valor, his prudent wife, observes that his mate is without sleep. The man, Crimton Nananar, said, 'Do not thrust thy secret, woman. The woman's secret is not well concealed. Wealth is not a thrust to a slave.' The woman, 'Why dost thou talk to a woman if something were not amiss? A thing that thy mind will not penetrate, something else's mind will.' The man. The hound of Mercer de Macdor. Evil was the day when they came for him. Many fair men would fall for his sake. More than one can tell will be fights for him. If to Concobar he is not given, certainly it will be a cherished deed. His hosts will not leave any more than the cattle or of land. If to LL he be refused, the son of Melchek will carry it off. The woman. I have advice for thee on this, the result of which will not be bad. Give it to them both, no matter who will fall because of it. The advice that thou givest does not make me glad. After that, MacDonald arose and gave himself a shake and said, Now, bring us food, and the guests who have come here be merry. They stayed for him 3 days and 3 nights, and he went aside with them. With the messengers of Conqueror first, he said to them, I was in great perplexity and doubt, and this is what is grown of it, and given the hound to Alil and to Mav, and let them come for it splendidly and proudly with many warriors and nobles as they can get. And they shall have drink and food and many gifts besides, and shall take the hound and be welcome. Those messengers departed and were thankful. He also went to the messengers of Ulster and said to them, After much debating, I have given the hound to Concobar, and let him and the flower of the province come for it proudly, and shall have many gifts, and you shall be welcome. But for one and the same day he made the tryst with them all, nor it was neglected by them. So then 2 provinces of Ireland came and stopped in front of MacDonald's hostel. He himself went to meet them and bade them welcome. It is welcome you are, O warriors, he said. Come within into the close. Then they went beyond into the hostel, and on behalf of the house for the congressmen, and the other half of the house for the men of Ulster. That house was not small. 7 doors in it, and 50 beds between each 2 doors. Those were not faces of friends at a feast. The people who were there in the house, for many of them had injured another. For 300 years before the birth, there was been war between them. Let the pig be killed for them, said MacDougall. 70 milch cows had been feeding it for 7 years, but on the venom that pig had been reared, since the account the slaughter of the men of Ireland was made. The pig was brought to them, and there were 60 oxen drawing that one pig. Besides other food, MacDonald himself was attending on them. A welcome to you, he said, and there is not to be found like such quality of food. We have many pigs and beeves in Leinster, and we've been wanting to you provisions to tonight. Will be killed for you tomorrow. The provision is good, said Concobar. There was 9 men under the hurdle on which the tail of the pig, so that they had the load tren. The pig is good, said Concobar. It is good, said Lil. How shall the pig be divided, O Concobar? How would you divide it indeed, said Bouffon MacConnell from his couch. There's the virtuous warriors of the men of Ireland are, but the contest in arms, and let each of you therefore give a blow on the other's nose. Let it be done so, said Elil. We are agreed, said Concobar, for we have lads in the house and many time goes around the border. There will be need of the lads today, O Concobar, said Skish Ara and Carcancon in the west. They've often turned their backs on the road of Leinster diet. Many fat beef, too, and they left it with me. It is the fat beef thou hast with me, the murmur MacGirl, even thy brother Cormac MacRuggle from Carcancon and Condrach. He was no better, said Luxgarg, son of Curo, than Eorus, son of Fergus MacLeith, who was left dead by Ichabod MacDirrig at Tarlacush. What sort of man was Constant MacDirrig, do you think? Said Conker MacUshter, whom I slew and cut off his head. Each of them brought up his exploits and the fierce other, until the last came to one man, that every one Keats MacMir of Conrac. He raised his weapon up to the host, and took his knife in his hand, and sat down by the pig. Now, There be found a man in Ireland, he said, one man able to oppose me, or let me divide the pig. There was not that time a warrior among the men of Ulster to stand up for him, and great silence fell upon them. Stop this for me, Oliger, said Concobar. It shall be stopped. Keat must not carve the pig before the face of us all. Wait a little, Ogre, said Crete, that I may ask of thee what custom it is of you Ulstermen that every youth among you who takes arms must use his first goal. Thou dost come to the border, and we met at the border, and thou dost leave a charioteer and chariot and horses with me, and thou didst escape with a lance through thee. Thou wouldst not get at the pig in that manner. Longer sat down on his couch. It shall not be, said the tall, fair warrior of Ulster, stepping forth from his couch. That Creeth carve a pig. Who is Keat? A better warrior than thou, said all. Even Angus, son of Lamthgar, Handwell, of Ulster.
You're at the back door.
Why is his father called Handwell? Said Keat. I know not indeed, said all, but I know this, said Keat. Once when enters Eastwind, an alarm was raised around me. And Handwell came up with me like everyone else, made a cast with a large lance at me. I cast back the same lance at him, which struck off his head, so that it lay on the field before him. What brings the son of that man to stand up to me, said Crete. And Angus sat down on his couch. Still keep up the contest, said Crete, or let me carve the pig. It is not right that thou thus carvest, O Crete, said another tall, fair warrior of Ulster. Who is this, said Crete. Urim MacDonald, said all, king of the Thirmang. I've seen him before, said Keat. Where's thou seen me? Said Ergon. In front of thy own house, when I took and drove off cattle from thee. The alarm was raised in the land around me. Thou meetest me in chastest spear at me, and thou stood out of my shield, and I cast the same spear back at thee, which passed through thy head, and struck thy eye out of thy head. And the men of Ireland see thee with one eye, ever since. Egan sat down in his seat after that. Still, keep up the contest, men of Ulster, said Keat, or allow me to carve the pig. Thou shalt not carve it yet, said Murmur MacGregorst. Is that Murmur, said Keek. It is he, said the men of Ireland. It was I at the last cleaned thy hands of thee, O Murmur, said Keat. It is not 3 days yet since, out of my own land, I carried off 3 warriors' heads from thee together with the head of thy firstborn son. Murmur sat down in his seat. Continue the contest, said Keat, or I shall carve the pig. Indeed, thou shalt have it, said a tall, grey, very terrible warrior of the men of Ulster. Who is this? Said Keat. That is Kirkskar MacUnkar, said all. Wait a little, Conqueror, said Keat. Unless thou wishest to come blows at once, I came, O Counselor, in front of thine house to alarm was raised around me. Everyone went after me. Thou camest like everyone else, and going into grap before didst throw a spear at me. I threw another spear at thee, which went through thy loins. And though the upper part of the testicles, so thou hast had sickness of urine ever since. Nor have either son or daughter been born to thee since. After that, Calder sat down at his seat. Continue the contest, said Keat, or I shall carve the pig. Thou shalt have it, said Muir, son of Swordheal. Who is this? Said Keat. Meanin, said all. What means it? The sons of Curls with nicknames should come to contend with me, for I was the one who, since I was cut off his heel, so that he carried off one heel with him always, that was your father. What should bring the son of such man contended with me? Made him sit down in his seat. Continue the contest, said Keat, or I shall carve the pig. Thou shalt have it, said Counsellor Stansmer of Macha, son of Concobar. Who is this? This is Constred, said all. He has the makings of a king, with respect of his figure, but he earns no thanks from me, said Keat. Thou mindest the first raid upon us. We met at the border, and thou didst leave a third of thy people with me, and thus camest away with a spear through thy throat, so that no word comes rightly over the lips, since the sinews of the throat were wounded, so that Consular the Stammerer is by thy name ever since. In that way he laid disgrace on his whole province. While he made ready with the pig and held his knife in his hand, he saw Conall the Victorious coming towards them into the house, and he sprang on the floor of his house. The men of Ulster gave great welcome to Conall the Victorious. At that time, it was then Conchobar threw his helmet from his head and shook himself on his own place. We are pleased, said Conall, that our portion is in readiness for us. Who carves for you? Said Conall. One man of the men of Ireland has obtained by contest the carving of it. Creet MacMeth. Oh, is that true, Creet? Said Conall. Art thou carving the pig? It is true indeed, said Keith. Then said Keith to Conall, welcome, Conall, heart of stone, fierce glow of fire, glitter of ice, red strength of anger under a hero's breast. Wounded inferior, triumph in battle, I see the son of Fitchcombe. Then Conall said to Keith, welcome, Keith. Keith Metha, heart of ice, strong chariot, chief of battle, battling sea, fair sharping bow, Creet MacKeith. The decision will be clear in our meeting and in our parting, said Conall, that it shall be a famous tale even with the slave who drives oxen. Our meeting tonight. Get up from the pig, O Keith, said Conall. What brings thee to it, said Keith. It's true, said Conall. I will be the challenger. I will give you competition, said Conall, for I swear my people what my people swear, that ever since I took spear as a weapon, I have never been a day without knowing to have slain a conquerorman, or a night without plundering, nor have I ever slept without a head of a conquerorman under my knee. It is true, said Keith. Thou art even a better warrior than I. But if Alan MacMurth, my brother, were here in the house, he would match thee contest for contest, and it is a shame that he is not in my house tonight. But he is, said Conall, taking Aaron's head out of his belt and throwing it at Keith's chest, so that the gush of blood broke over his lips. After that, Conall sat down by the pig, and Creet went from it. Now, let them come to contest, said Conall. Truly there was not found among the men of Conquer a warrior to stand up to him in contest, for if they were loath to be slain on the spot, the men of Ulster made cover around him with their shields, for there was an evil custom in the house, the people on one side throwing stones at the people on the other. Then Conall went to carve the pig, and he took the end of its tail in his mouth until he had finished dividing it. He sucked up the whole tail, and a load for 9 it was, and did not leave a bit of it. And he cast its skin and membrane from him. As the poet said, the load of 9 his heavy tail, while he was the brave and prosperous carving, Conall the Victorious consumed it. However, the men of Conall he gave no more but a quarter of the pig, or the 2 forelegs of the pig. Their share of the pig seemed small to the men of Conquer. They rose up. Then from the other side arose the men of Ulster, until each of them reached each other. Then there were blows over ear and head, so that the heap of warriors' bodies lay on the floor. It was as high as the side of the house. For there were slain 1,400 armed men, both of Ulster and Conqueror, so that 7 streams of blood and gore burst through the 7 doors. Then the host burst through these doors and raised a great shout in the middle of the close, and each one was striking and slaying each other. Then Fergus took a great oak that was in the middle of the close to the men of Conqueror after having torn it from its roots. Others say it was Chura MacDeary who took the oak from them. That it was them the man came, for there was a men of Munster, but before except Lugus, son of Chiro, and Chitimpanji, and that there was Churo came to them. He carried off 1/2 of the pig, with its back from Lenchen, and they broke forth into close field. They continued to fight in front of the close. Then MacDorrough came out with the hound in his hand, and let him in amongst to see which side he would choose. The hound chose Ulster, and set to tearing the men of Congal greatly. Al and Mav went to their chariot, and the charioteer with them, and MacDonald let out the hound after them. They say it was in the plain of Alba that the hound seized the pole of the chariot, and that was under Al and Mav that the charioteer of Al and Mav dealt the hound a blow so that it sent its body aside, and that the head of the hound remained on the pole of the chariot. At Ithracon Rasher, the yew tree of the hound's head, whence Comra takes its name, and they also say that from that hound, Megalver, the plain of Albany, is called, for Albany was the name of the hound. Now, this road which the men Comric were southwards with, over Brush Muga, past Thurl, past Ontbara, in Missitu, past Kildar, past Rathmigrim, and Thrugel to Athmecluga, past Donald Deer Mecora, over Donald Capri, there at Oncrom, the hound's head ford, and Fiorbeel, the head of the hound, fell from the chariot. As they were going along Fertmurger of Mether eastwards to Fiorlog, the charioteer of Ayr, lying in wait in the heather, jumped on the chariot behind Concobar, and seized his head from behind. Methinks, he said, O Concobar, thou wouldst not get hence. And thou shalt have thy wish, said Concobar. Truly I do not want much for thee, said Fiorloga, for I want to be taken by thee to Emin Macha, and the women of Ulster and their maiden daughters shall sing their chorus around me every evening, and they should all say, Fiorloga, my darling, etc. Thou shalt have it, said Colbert, that the maidens of Ermaca had to do, for they did not dare it otherwise to fear of Concobar. And on that day, a year gone, Concobar let him go back to west to Athlone, and he had 2 horses of Concobar's with him, with golden brides, and he did not get the women's song through. He got the horses. And that is how Ulster and Connacht fell out about the hound of MacDorrough and about his pig.